Welcome back to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. You search Locked On Sports Atlanta. Time to dive into the Atlanta Falcons as they have their first media availability today for all the Atlanta media at OTAs. And joining us now, nobody knows the Falcons better. He's my good buddy, D. Orlando Ledbetter of the AJC. D-Led, always great to talk to you, brother. How you been?
Hey, I've been great, Mark. Thanks for having me again today.
Always, honestly, we should just set up a camera right outside of our houses since we're neighbors, and we could just do this outside with a cocktail one day. That's probably the way we should do this going forward.
I'm for that. I'll sign up for that.
All right,
simulcast.
Yeah, exactly right. I talked earlier this week about Kyle Pitts' progression, and it's something I'm really curious to watch. And I think the default for people will be, well, Matt Ryan's gone. He doesn't have a quarterback. He doesn't have an offensive line. And, his numbers should take a hit. I don't think, D-Led, it's the one area I'm not giving Arthur Smith a pass on, and I'm not giving Kyle Pitts a pass. You drafted him 4th overall. You have to find a way to get him the ball. He's clearly one of your best weapons and one of your best mismatches on the field. There's no reason he shouldn't see 120 targets again. I don't care if Marcus Mariota can't hit him with the ball. I want to see the target share be there. And oh, by the way, if they were so worried about their quarterback issue, then why did they draft a wide receiver first again? It's not an excuse not to feed Pitts and Drake London the ball on a routine basis, because if you don't, then what did you draft him that high for?
Yeah, no question about it. Kyle Pitts is going to get his targets. My expectations for him were low last year just because the history of tight ends coming in and making an impact just wasn't there. You got to go all the way back to Jeremy Shockey. We went through all that. So, getting 1,000 yards was good. The, inability to get him the ball in the red zone was not so good. So, right. Now they got targets to go with him. That should free him up in the red zone or free somebody up. Because, if he wasn't open, they didn't get it to anybody else. So they didn't have any help for him last year. So now can the quarterbacks get him the ball? That's a whole nother issue. But, they knew that when they decided to trade Matt Ryan and move on to these kind of RPO spread type quarterbacks, which is, what I expect them to do to get him the ball, to get him open on a lot of different situations.
There are two other stats that I'm paying close attention to when it comes to Kyle Pitts. One, his yards per reception. Last year, of people who caught at least 50 balls, Kyle Pitts was 6th in the NFL behind names like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson in yards per catch at over 15. He's got to be up there again. That just denotes these are big playmakers. These are guys that change your offense. That's why you drafted him to do that. And the other one I'm looking at is, of his 68 catches last year, D-Led, 43 were for first downs. Be a move of the chains guy, right? 2 out of every 3 catches netted a first down to Kyle Pitts. That's a good stat to have in your back pocket.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. That was more out of necessity. That was Gage's role before. He was hurt a little bit last year. But, yeah, he definitely has to be a factor on third downs when they know he's coming. They did it. Arthur did it in a unique kind of way. They had him running short stuff, had him running long stuff, had him running in cuts, had him running a whole lot of routes that were new to him. So, the second year of him running these routes should improve, for him. This is just the issue of, where the ball's going to be when he's running his routes.
D-Led, as we start OTAs here, look, we assume Marcus Mariota is the starter. How much room is there for Desmond Ridder to actually go out and try to win this job from the jump?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be much room. They're going to give him a shot, though. But realistically,
what does this shot look like? Sorry to cut you off. What does that mean? They're giving him a shot, he'll get reps with the ones from here to there. Is that a shot?
He'll get a game. He'll get an exhibition game. It may be the first or the second, but it won't be the third. Who's ever starting that third game is going to get an opportunity. Yeah, they'll probably flop him. They'll start Marcus with the ones in the first game, and then Desmond with the ones in the second game. That's a small sample size. But if he shows he can do it, they might do like Malarkey and Musgraves did. They're like, hey, well, why are we messing around here? this is going to be the quarterback. Might as well get him out there.
Yeah.
So they could always do that, but I know that they would prefer to develop him and bring him along and play him when he's ready, and not just play him for some agenda to sell tickets and so forth.
No, I mean, again, I don't. I think the agenda, at least for me, is to figure out what you got, right? Because allegedly, if the quarterbacks next year coming out are as good, and supposedly if the Falcons are going to be that bad and drafting near the top again, you need to know if you're going to go get another one or this is the guy. I think that should be the only agenda. But I would say, I'll do the fan thing, D-Led. Well, Russell Wilson was drafted in the 3rd round and he won a job over Matt Flynn, so clearly it can happen. Yeah, I don't think any of that is remotely the same. But I'm leaving the door open to the possibility. Clearly, the secondary is going to be probably the most polished group of the entire position groups on this team, right? I mean, it's fair to say that at this point.
Yeah, I concur with that. That's the one you feel the most comfortable about.
Is it fair to say that my guess is for the group that I think will surprise everybody more than anything is the linebacking core? And I say that only because I know Dean Pease and what he does and how good he and Ted Monachino are for linebackers in general. Now, I'll dovetail that statement by saying, it's May 26th. He led in 4 days, or do we still have Deion Jones on this roster? I'll let you answer that in a minute. But what will be the second best position group, or the position group you think that surprises us the most after the secondary?
Yeah, I'll stick with you with the linebackers because, we got a story coming out later today breaking that whole situation down with Deion. They lost Fourier. They signed Rashard Evans. Nick Kwiatkowski was signed. To help in the middle. Troy Anderson was drafted. So it's stacked up pretty good inside. They're not giving Deion his job back if he comes. You got to come earn it. That's that entitlement that we hear Arthur talks about. The Falcons used to keep guys around here just because they drafted them. Deidre Sanat stayed for years just because he was drafted by him. The lineman there, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but his daddy played in the league.
Jake Matthews.
4th round pick tackle from USC. But anyway, but they don't want to, just play Deion because he has a big salary. So he's going to have to win his job, and there'll be a competition there. At outside linebacker, you got Artie Ogundeji. They drafted him. He played a lot, but he didn't do nothing. Lorenzo Carter is coming in. You like that. And Arnold Igbikute is coming in. So you like that. And D'Angelo Malone. So from those 4 guys, they got to get a pass rush. And the one we feel least comfortable about is up front with Grady. You got Anthony Rush. You got Vincent Taylor as the big nose tackles brought in. And then they're going to need Tyquan Graham or Marlon Davidson to give them some push from that other defensive end spot. So, that's how we look at the secondary's fine. I think, Casey Hayward can still play at 32. You can get Isaiah Oliver in there at nickelback. Terrell's fine. And then the 2 young guys got to take over at safety, Jalen Hawkins and Richie Grant. So, they got to be ready to play. And if they can't, they got Eric Harris as insurance.
Right. Let's flip over to the offensive side of a group that I don't know that we'll see much improvement from, and that's the offensive line. I'm foolishly optimistic that they can get better. I mean, look, they can't get worse, right? And it's a good thing you got a semi-mobile quarterback, and at least 2 of them, because they may be running for more than their life at this point.
Yeah, no question, Mark. And, the philosophy is different than we're used to seeing. I talked to Coach yesterday, and he said, hey, you don't necessarily have to find 5 first-rounders up there. And we know that the old regime stacked that line with 5 first-rounders for 1 year. They didn't work. James Carpenter and, Alex Mack. You had all first-rounders at one point. So this is a philosophical change on, grinding it up, putting the line together through whatever parts you can, scrap heap you can find. And, it's worked for some coaches like Alex Gibbs. Chicago did that for years. The Packers were the alternative. They went first-round pick guys. There's different ways to do the
New York Giants did it. They won 2 Super Bowls with a patchwork offensive line. They didn't have
that's
any
what
real
they're
first-round
trying to
picks.
do here.
Yeah. So I get it. I just don't know how well they can perform at this point.
Right, and you can scheme up a lot of stuff, but you can't scheme up blocking. I don't care what you do. You can fake people out, RPO misdirection. But, at some point, you're going to have to push some people around to get a yard. And, so, you got to have a line that can do that and handle that type of workload.
I have said earlier, and you can mark it down that you heard it here first. So when you write your column for the AJC, you could say Mark Zinno told me this. Tyler Algier is the week one starting running back. When they take the field against the Saints, he's the week one starting running back. Like, there's no reason to think that he's not. I mean, Cordero Patterson is not a 15, 20 carry guy. He's more like an 8 to 10, maybe or 6 to 10 kind of guy. But the bell cow back on this team at this point has got to be Algier. There's really nobody else. You know what Kadri Allison is and what he's not. You got some other guys there, veterans that you signed, but I don't think you're signing them to be that guy. So what's the reason to believe that Tyler Algier won't be starting running back week one?
He's going to get every opportunity, Mark. He blows some pass protections in the exhibition season that'll cost him. But
that's kind of a sore spot around here.
Yeah, no doubt. Big history of that. So, but no reason to think he's not. Cordarrelle's going to they're going to try to see if they can do more with him at running back. I don't know why. We saw enough last year. We saw the maximum of that, I think. One guy to keep an eye on is Caleb Huntley, guy they kept around last year. They think he's got some pop in the outside zone scheme. And, maybe a long shot guy to keep an eye on if these other guys don't come through. Damian Williams is a pro. He's 30. He's been a serviceable backup everywhere at LSU, former LSU back. No reason to think he can take on a full load because he hasn't done it by now. So, they got a bunch of pieces back there. And it's an opportunity for Algier to step forward. If he can't do it, we've seen Allison. If he can't do it, maybe the Caleb Huntley kid can, who played at Ball State, little stocky guy, kind of like Michael Turner too. Doesn't have the speed that Michael Turner had, but don't want to. Well, they're both. Michael was a MAC back too, Northern Illinois. So I want to see what Huntley can do. He's had a year on the practice squad. So if Algier or Huntley can't take that job, then they're back in that patchwork mode where they're, using Patterson and Damian Williams and, Olsen again.
All right, final thought here, D-Led. And I'm curious to see how this all plays out. With the expectations being so low, I'm just kind of curious on the messaging that Arthur Smith is going to put out and what's the tone he's going to set for camp. Again, like he talked about tanking is the stupidest thing ever. Like, I get it, right? We're not talking about that. What we're talking about is in the big picture, what is he trying to build? And I pay close attention to the words that they use and the phrases that they use. And I'm not talking about brotherhood stuff like that DQ used. I'm just saying in general, the way they speak and how they approach things this year with expectations being so low. What sort of tone and tenor do you think Arthur Smith will set? And will it be any different from what he had last year?
The main things, there's three things, Mark: teaching, development, and winning culture. They think they can do that, teach these players, develop them, and then still try to go out and win some games, which, they did last year, probably to their detriment. They went out and beat the, Giants and Jets and the dregs of the league last year. This year, they're not playing the dregs of the league. So that's going to be a little bit harder to do. So, but that's it. Develop these young players, teach them, develop them, and then try to win, try to establish a winning culture. And so that's going to be a little bit harder, that third prong, given their schedule and so forth. And, you don't have a quarterback pretty much, developing one. That's one of the ones where we'll be teaching and developing a lot. So, you're on the ground floor of a rebuild. They can call it whatever they want. That's what it is. They're trying to build out the roster and see if they have a quarterback. If they don't have a quarterback, they'll go back and get another one. So, keep on developing quarterbacks, kind of like the Packers did when, they had Brett Favre, but they kept drafting quarterbacks every year. They drafted Mike Brunell, Ty Detmer, Matt Hasselbeck, Aaron Brooks, and so, we may be in that type of situation here in Atlanta where you keep going at quarterback until you get one.
Well, let's hope not. But it's going to be an interesting ride, to say the least. D-Led of the AJC, thanks for the time as always, brother. You're the best. Enjoy the rest of the day. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Take care.
All right. Coming up next, we'll hand out some shovels of wisdom. And how is this still a headline? That's next right here on A to Z on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Search Locked On Sports Atlanta.